In the golden light of the Mediterranean sun, an empire once stood at the crossroads of worlds, a civilization born from Rome yet shaped by Greek wisdom, Christian faith, and Eastern influence. This was Byzantium, the empire that refused to die, the empire that endured for over 1,000 years, and at the heart of its survival lay a weapon so powerful, so mysterious, and so feared, that even today its true formula remains a closely guarded secret of history. This is the story of Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's secret weapon. Imagine a naval battlefield in the ancient world. Wooden ships clashing across the waves, archers firing flaming arrows, soldiers shouting orders drowned by the roar of the sea. Wooden ships clashing across the waves, archers firing flaming arrows, soldiers shouting orders drowned by the roar of the sea. But then, from the bow of a Byzantine dramong, a bronze tube extends outward. A soldier turns a pump. A jet of liquid bursts forth, and the sea itself ignites. Fire dances on the water, impossible, unstoppable. Men scream, ships crackle, and entire fleets disappear under an inferno no amount of water can extinguish. This was not ordinary fire. Men scream, ships crackle, and entire fleets disappear under an inferno no amount of water can extinguish. This was not ordinary fire. This was a weapon engineered to terrify. Greek fire was more than a weapon, it was survival. When the Byzantine Empire stood on the edge of collapse, surrounded by enemies on all sides, this invention changed the course of its history. But where did it come from? Who created it? And how did a single substance preserve an empire for centuries? The origins of Greek fire trace back to the 7th century. A time of chaos. The once mighty Eastern Roman Empire was shrinking rapidly. The Persians had invaded, the Avars were raiding, and the unstoppable force of the expanding Arab Caliphate was sweeping across the Middle East. Constantinople, jewel of the East, was trapped in the storm. The empire needed a miracle, and then came a man named Kalinic. The empire needed a miracle, and then came a man named Kallinikos. Kallinikos was said to be a Syrian engineer, a master of chemical substances. Fleeing the Arab conquests, he sought refuge in Byzantium, bringing with him a formula that would change the fate of nations. According to legend, Kallinikos offered Emperor Constantine IV a weapon unlike anything the world had seen, a flame that could cling to armor, burn through wood, and spread across water like a living creature. It burned in rain, resisted sand, and left behind a cloud of thick smoke that blinded enemies. It was both chemical and psychological warfare wrapped into one terrifying creation. The first use of Greek fire came during the Arab siege of Constantinople in 674 to 678. Surrounded by massive fleets and armies, the Byzantines were outnumbered, outmatched, and nearly defeated. But when the Arab navy approached the walls, the sea erupted into flames. Byzantine ships spewed fire at their enemies, sending them into panic. The Arabs retreated in shock, suffering heavy losses, and ultimately lifting the siege. Greek fire saved Constantinople and, arguably, saved Europe as well. But unlike gunpowder or steel, Greek fire was not just a substance. It was an entire system. Pumps, pressure mechanisms, bronze siphons, storage jars, and specialized troops. Only select units of the Byzantine navy were allowed to use it, and those who worked with the formula were sworn to secrecy. The penalty for revealing its ingredients was death. Even within the empire, the recipe was passed down only to a handful of trusted craftsmen. The secrecy was so absolute that even today historians and scientists can only guess at the true mixture. Some theories suggest it contained crude oil, resin, sulfur, pitch, quicklime, and maybe even saltpeter. Others believe it may have included metallic powders or other unknown compounds lost to time. But whatever the ingredients were, no Empire, Arab, Bulgarian, Venetian, or Russian ever successfully replicated it. They tried, they experimented, they studied its effects, but the secret was never revealed. Greek fire remained uniquely Byzantine. As centuries passed, this weapon became a symbol of imperial power. When the Rus launched a violent naval assault on Constantinople in 941, their longships filled with warriors eager for plunder, the Byzantines responded with a familiar terror. Greek fire once again streaked across the sea, burning ships and men alike. The Russes were so terrified that some reportedly jumped into the sea, only to be consumed by flames floating across the water's surface. Survivors described the fire as if it were alive, clinging to ships and flesh, like a beast with claws. But Greek fire was not used only at sea. Byzantine armies adapted it into handheld weapons. Soldiers carried clay grenades filled with the burning liquid, designed to burst on impact. Some infantry units used portable flame-throwing tubes, allowing fire to sweep across enemy fortifications. In siege warfare, Greek fire was a nightmare for attackers. A single pot thrown into a wooden tower could turn it into a furnace. A jet of fire sprayed across a battering ram could force entire armies to retreat. Yet for all its power, Greek fire was also dangerous to its own users. Mishandling the substance could cause catastrophic accidents. A spark in the wrong place, a leak in the wrong moment, or a shift in wind could turn a Byzantine ship into a coffin. That is why the empire trained specialized crews who spent years mastering the weapon. It was not simply technology, it was an art form. Over the centuries, the Byzantines developed variations of Greek fire. Some types were designed for naval combat, others for siege defense, and still others for small-scale infantry battles. Different complexes stored the materials, each separated, so no single person knew the entire formula. The secrecy was absolute, and as a result, when the Byzantine Empire finally weakened in its last centuries, the knowledge of Greek fire slowly faded away. By the time the Crusaders marched into Constantinople in 1204, many of the original techniques had already been lost. The empire fragmented, craftsmen scattered, and the science behind the weapon began to unravel. When the Ottomans finally captured Constantinople in 1453, the formula was believed to be long forgotten. Greek fire, once the greatest secret of the medieval world, vanished into the shadows of history. But its influence endured. Greek fire inspired the development of later incendiary weapons, early flamethrowers, and even certain forms of gunpowder-based mixtures. The idea of projecting flame as a weapon continued into the modern era, appearing in warfare thousands of years later. In many ways, Greek fire was one of humanity's first examples of advanced military technology and ancient precursor to chemical and incendiary warfare. More importantly, Greek fire preserved Byzantium during its most vulnerable eras. Without it, Constantinople might have fallen centuries earlier. Christianity might not have spread into Eastern Europe the way it did. The medieval world might have evolved differently. The balance of power, the shape of nations, the course of empires, all were influenced by a single invention whose formula remains unknown. The legend of Greek fire survives in medieval manuscripts, eyewitness accounts, and archaeological hints, but no one has ever recreated it. No scientist has reverse engineered it with certainty. No historian has found the lost formula, and perhaps that is part of its magic. Greek fire is not just a weapon, it is a mystery. A symbol of an empire that blended knowledge, secrecy, and brilliance into something that shaped history. The story of Greek fire reminds us that the ancient world was far more advanced than we imagine. It shows that innovation is not a modern invention, and it reveals that sometimes the greatest secrets are the ones that disappear with the civilizations that created them. This is the enduring legacy of Greek fire, a weapon that saved an empire, terrified its enemies, and left behind a mystery that still burns bright in the shadows of history.